Lewis Hamilton has once again surprised the Formula One world. This time the Mercedes driver surprised Ferrari and their team boss, Frederic Vasseur, with an unexpected statement. His statement sparked speculation among fans and analysts and raised big questions about his future in F1. What exactly did Hamilton say, and how did Ferrari react to the statement? Let's discuss. The new Formula One season brings a lot of hope for Lewis Hamilton after his move to Ferrari, a big step that is expected to restore his glory in the racing world. After years of defending Mercedes and winning 7 world championship titles, the move to the legendary Italian team is a new challenge in his career. High expectations accompany his journey, both from the fans and the team, who hope that Hamilton can bring Ferrari back to the top of the competition. However, the harsh reality of the racing world soon replaced his initial euphoria. The Australian Grand Prix in Melbourne proved to be the first acid test for Hamilton and his team. Just 3 days after arriving in high spirits, he had to face the reality that Ferrari had a lot of work to do to compete with Red Bull and Mercedes. Hamilton's problems stemmed not only from the team's ineffective strategy, but also from the car's less than optimal performance. Adapting to the SF24, Ferrari's latest race car, is still a challenge for Hamilton, who has been used to the characteristics of the Mercedes car for years. In addition, the working relationship with his new racing engineer, Riccardo Adami, is still in the adjustment phase, which means that communication and decision-making are not as efficient as expected. As well as Hamilton, his teammate Charles Leclerc also had a challenging weekend. Although Leclerc is more familiar with the Ferrari environment, he also had to fight hard to get maximum results on track. Tough competition from other teams made Ferrari work harder to improve their performance and strategy for the next race. Lewis Hamilton had to settle for a 10th-place finish at the Melbourne Grand Prix, scoring just 1 point after facing a series of challenges throughout the weekend. His hopes of a better result were dashed by a number of technical issues and poor communication with his team. Signs of trouble had been evident since free practice. The performance of the Mercedes car showed no significant improvement, while the unpredictable weather added to the challenges. Hamilton, who usually excels in wet conditions, seemed less confident this time. Tire factors and race strategy were also major concerns, with the team having to constantly adjust their plans as conditions changed. As the race got underway, tensions were immediately apparent, especially in the radio communication between Hamilton and his team. Usually, communication within the Mercedes team is concise and effective, but this time there were more instructions that made Hamilton uncomfortable. When asked to activate charge mode to save energy, Hamilton replied calmly but firmly, "Yes, no problem. Just don't repeat everything." Another moment of disagreement came when Hamilton was asked to use the overtake button to try to overtake Williams' Alex Albon. In a slightly frustrated tone, he replied, "Yes, please let me do it myself." This response confirmed how much more confident he was in making his own decisions on track, without too much intervention from the team. Things did not improve throughout the race. Hamilton had to fight hard to maintain his position while trying to optimize the performance of a car that felt less competitive than his rivals. The pit stop strategy was also not entirely beneficial, making it difficult for him to push into a better position. In the end, Hamilton had to accept that the weekend in Melbourne was not the best for him or the Mercedes team. He looked disappointed when he crossed the line, but was professional when he spoke to the media. "This is not the result we wanted, but we will continue to work hard to bounce back," he said with a tone of determination. The result in Melbourne is a reminder that the season is still long and full of challenges. Hamilton and Mercedes will need to find solutions to their problems quickly if they are to be at the front of the pack again. All eyes are now on the next race, where they hope to bounce back and show their best performance. The problem was compounded when the Ferrari team misread the weather forecast, which had a major impact on the race. When it started to rain, most of the drivers immediately pitted to change to wet tires in order to stay competitive on the increasingly slippery track. However, Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc made a different decision and stayed on dry tires, believing that the rain would not be too heavy and that the track could still be conquered with this strategy. When Max Verstappen made a quick change, Hamilton managed to take the lead. However, he was still unsure about the weather conditions and asked his team on the radio, "Is it going to rain again?" The answer from his race engineer, Peter Bonington, was less convincing, "Negative, just a little bit, hopefully. We'll see." Unfortunately, this belief was not based on accurate analysis. The rain actually got heavier within minutes, making the track much more slippery than expected. By the time Hamilton was forced into the pits to change tires, the damage had already been done. He lost a lot of time and position on the track, making his chances of winning even slimmer. To make matters worse, the safety car was brought out due to an incident on the track. This further complicated Hamilton's strategy and made him even more depressed. In the end, Hamilton had to settle for a ninth-place finish, a far cry from his pole position hopes. After the race, the disappointment was clear in his tone. "I thought you said it wasn't going to rain much. We missed a great opportunity," he said in frustration. This strategic miscalculation once again shows the importance of reading the weather in the world of Formula One racing, where a small decision can have a big impact on the final result. Strategic errors are nothing new for Ferrari. The team has often been criticized for making poor decisions at the pit wall, especially in crucial situations. In recent seasons, Ferrari has often lost out to rival teams such as Red Bull and Mercedes when it comes to strategy. In the 2022 season, a series of mistakes in tire selection and pit stops had a major impact on the team's performance, to the point of costing Mattia Binotto his job as team principal. Frederic Vasseur, who took over at the end of the 2022 season, is attempting to rectify the problem. Despite the improvements, the Melbourne Grand Prix proved that Ferrari is still far from perfect. Suboptimal decisions and slow reactions cost them the chance of a better result. More than just strategic errors, perhaps more worrying for Lewis Hamilton was Ferrari's lack of pace compared to their rivals. McLaren dominated the Melbourne Grand Prix with blistering pace, while Ferrari not only lagged behind Red Bull, but also struggled to beat Mercedes, the team Hamilton has been with for more than a decade and where he has won numerous championships. The situation is certainly a blow for Hamilton, who decided to leave Mercedes for a new challenge with Ferrari. Although his contract with the Italian team is worth around $50 million a year, Hamilton is now beginning to realize that his title ambitions with Ferrari will face a much bigger obstacle than he had imagined. "Today's race was much worse than I expected. The car was very difficult to control, especially in the fast corners. I really had to fight to keep the car on the track because it felt like it was going to go off at any moment," he said in frustration. Ferrari, who have long been trying to recapture their glory days in F1, still seem to be lagging behind their main rivals in terms of performance. The car's development has not been maximized, and the difficulty in finding the right balance has made Hamilton have to work harder to get the expected results. Frederic Vasseur, Ferrari team principal, tried to remain optimistic, insisting that the poor performance in Melbourne was not surprising, considering that Hamilton is still in the process of adapting to his new team. "We know this is not a good weekend, but we will learn from this mistake. We need to improve our communication, understand what Lewis needs, and that way we will be better for the next race," said Vasseur. The challenge for Hamilton and Ferrari now is not only to improve the performance of the car, but also to strengthen coordination with the team and develop a more mature and effective strategy. Every decision made on track will have a major impact on the final result, especially given the increasingly competitive nature of the season. Can the Italian team pull out of the doldrums? Write your opinion.